Next, we're going to look at understanding the different end times views, because there's several of them. The first one is called Premillennialism. And before, millennial, which means 1,000. So Jesus ascends from the cross. The red here is tribulation. The black is the timeline. So Jesus ascends, and he is reigning from heaven, and the saints also go to heaven when they die, when we die. And we've had roughly 2,000 years of church tribulation. We know that the Antichrist will come, and there will be a 7-year tribulation on earth. And it gets increasingly worse. At the middle point, the Antichrist sets himself in the temple and sets up the abomination which causes desolation. This marks the half point, and the tribulation increases dramatically at that point. And then there's a final wrath of God, which is full mayhem on earth. So this is the before millennial views. Now we have the rapture idea. There's a few different perspectives on this. The pre-tribulation rapture is the church gets raptured out before the tribulation. Then you have the mid-tribulation, so the church would leave at some point in the middle before it gets really bad. And then you have the post-tribulation rapture, which is that the church would be here during the entire tribulation and then leave. The historic or covenant view is that the resurrection is at the end, the post-tribulation rapture. That's the historic, ancient, long-term view that many in the church have had that hold to a premillennial view. In this idea, the church is the true and new Israel, and there's no distinction between the church and Israel. However, there is another view called the dispensational view, and dispensation is just a period of time. So it means that God he acted differently at different periods of time. And so this would be, the church age is one dispensation, and then there would be another dispensation. In this view, there's a secret rapture of the church either before or during the first half of the tribulation. So this would be the pre or the mid options. And in order for this to happen, unlike the historic view, where the church is the true and new Israel, Israel is separate and remains here during the tribulation, whereas the church gets raptured out in this view. Now, the reason it's called premillennialism or premillennium is that they believe that there's a literal millennium on earth, a literal 1,000 years on earth. So regardless of when the rapture would occur, Jesus would come and return, would have Armageddon, God's wrath, destroys the Antichrist and all of that. Church comes back with him, and then there's a 1,000-year reign on earth in this view, where all of those saints no longer die and they're glorified. So Christ returns. There's a 1,000-year reign on earth with the saints from Jerusalem. Now, the other idea, the dispensational version, where the pre-mid rapture, that actually didn't originate until the early 1800s. So even though it's sort of talked about like it's always been that way, it's actually fairly new. That the church believed we would be here during the tribulation for most of church history. But this was not the only view. This is the pre-millennium reign. Another interesting fact about this view is that it says after the 1,000-year reign, Christ on saints on the earth, basically there's peace on earth. During the 7-year tribulation, all God's enemies get destroyed and wiped out. So it's, in a lot of ways, it's basically like starting over. 1,000-year reign. But then it says that Satan will be released and we'll have Gog and Magog, and he will be given one last opportunity to go against God. And he gets all the people on the earth to somehow come up against Christ again for one last shot. Fire comes down from heaven and destroys him, and then there's the resurrection of the living and the dead. That is the premillennial view. Interesting facts about this view. Glorified Jesus and the resurrected eternal saints reign for 1,000 years, even though the earth hasn't been recreated yet. Still the same earth. Satan is released and prepares army of all nations against Jesus, and the entire earth rises against God again. That's an interesting thing that I have a hard time with. Is that you mean to tell me that you think somehow Satan gets the whole world to come against Jesus again, even though he's here and there's glorified saints? So I have a hard time believing that. And then the fire consumes Satan and his army, the resurrection and the judgment. So those are the various premillennial views. Are you benefiting from this teaching? Do you think more people need to know this? Are you doing your part to obey the Great Commission, to make disciples, and to create revival? Get empowered and start making a difference today. You can help by subscribing to our channel to get notified of all new videos. Share this video on your social media channels. Support our ministry so we can continue to make and spread more content like this. Make a one-time donation of any amount or partner with us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. There's also many free ways to get involved in the movement. We ask that you would prayerfully consider stepping up. You can purchase either individual lessons or full series at an even greater discount. You'll receive the full lesson as a single HD video without any ads or banners on it. You'll also receive the study guide that goes with it with fill-in-the-blanks, follow-up questions to discuss with your small group. You'll also receive the entire slideshow, both the PowerPoint and a PDF version that goes with it so you can teach from it your own way. These can be used in traditional churches from the pulpit, Bible studies, or small groups. Consider starting your own home church or study group. Jesus said the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Use our tools and get started harvesting today.